Welcome back to our virtual world. You heard that music. It's time to talk Syracuse football. You can see I'm all geared up. Got my 44 on. Floyd Little tribute right here. Boy, green. Nice. I didn't even notice that. Very well done, my
Fort
friend.
Dorchester, baby. Yeah, let's go.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Well, welcome aboard today's SU recap, you want to call it. We got some big news. Syracuse football brought to you by our friends at Play It Again Sports. Play It Again down on Erie Boulevard in DeWitt, where you can buy gently used items, or you can, dare I say, unload some of your gently used items for cash or maybe store credit. Go do it. It helps the world, the recycling, the whole bit. Our friends at Play It again in the DeWitt Town Plaza, right on Erie Boulevard, right in that where the Taco Bell is. Great place. Play It Again Sports, the only location right here in Syracuse and Central New York. All right, very special guest we want to bring in today to talk about some huge news. We're talking five-star recruit world. Let's bring him in from Syracuse.com, Javon Edmonds, who's our SU insider today. What's up, Javon? How you doing?
What's up, fellas?
Good to be with you. Good to be
Hey,
with
wow,
you.
Javon. Oh, that's interesting. I see back there, just like Fran Brown, you guys are both stacking bricks. Foundation.
Yes, stacking bricks. You like it. Stacking bricks. Yep, a little metaphor going on there.
Yeah.
That's a good one. I'm happy to be with you guys this morning.
Well, look, I want to pull some of the information here just to introduce people to what's going on with Syracuse football. Obviously, we know that Fran Brown has been doing a monstrous job of recruiting in his short time here. But this is as big as it gets. Syracuse getting a five-star player, a wide receiver from Florida. Let's talk a little bit about him. Let's talk about how Syracuse cultivated this relationship, because we're used to here in Syracuse, Syracuse battling for a guy that maybe is thinking about Rutgers or Kansas or some other, pretty good school, but not big time school. This is a kid whose Final Four was Syracuse, Michigan, Florida State, and Oregon. What? And Syracuse wins somehow. So again, another monstrous win for Fran Brown. Let's talk about how he cultivated it and how he did it, Javon.
It's simple relationship building. That's it. Every kid I talk to just talks about how authentic and relatable Fran Brown is. And I know it firsthand. My first conversation with the guy, I was like, okay, yeah, this dude is straight up from Camden. That's the most I'll say about that conversation, right? And that attracts kids. And Fran, from just the beginning of his career, understands where the hotbeds are in recruiting, and he took it upon himself to make sure he's got relationships, strong ones, in those places. He's made it crystal clear. These are actually his words. Syracuse's recruitment footprint, goes from Canada down to the DMV, and then they go to Georgia and Florida for their speed. Georgia is Fran Brown's territory, right? Because Kirby Smart owes a ring to Fran Brown. And you cannot coach in Georgia without having the connections in Florida. So you got the Syracuse, got some Florida kids on the team, and those Florida kids helped them a lot in the recruitment of Calvin Russell. Darius Johnson was literally right next to Calvin Russell at Saturday's birthday / commitment party. Matter of fact, Darius Johnson's live stream worked better than Calvin Russell's live stream Saturday night. So thanks a lot, Darius. So with that, and Demetrius Samuel, who helps them recruit every Florida kid, I mean, that guy might as well be getting paid as an offensive player, defensive player, and assistant coach at this point, as much recruiting as he helps them do. It was just a group effort. And, now they've got Cameron Wilson, the 4-star edge rusher, who's coming in from down there, he went to Twitter right with Demetrius. Because something I pointed out in our coverage this weekend, both in print and digital, was that Florida State commit to Darius Hughes was down there. And one thing that's going on with Florida State commits right now They are not hard commits. A lot of those guys are being flipped. Xavier Payne's going to flip from Florida State to either Syracuse or Colorado today. He was in attendance for Calvin Russell's commitment. And I said on the podcast, like, on some Brian Windhorst stuff, like, what does this mean? Watch out for this. He's on flip watch to me. And literally, as soon as I filed my stories on Saturday night, I get to Twitter, and Cam Wilson and Demetrius Samuel are, hey, Tadarius, now you know what you got to do. It's time to flip. So, I mean, they're doing that. And then there's another kid that committed to Louisville. That's a 4-star DB, Jayden Broadnax. They're trying to get him also. So, Fran Brown, when I first got here, I told everyone, like, that first year he showed y'all what he could do in the transfer portal.
Yeah.
Now, watch what he does from here on out, because Syracuse is about to, like, start getting some actual high school guys. Now, I didn't think the 4s and the 5 stars were going to be piling up like this. I thought at Baylor and Temple of, I'm going to find the diamond in the rough 3 stars and make them play like 5 stars.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy just landed a 5-star receiver that's 6'5" from the state of Florida. That is a football coach's dream.
Yeah, the last one officially here at Syracuse, I think, was either Johnny Morant or Cecil Howard, depending on ranking. So we're going back, 25 years essentially, 2000, 2001, to find a guy. I know, Paul, you have queued up the video of the announcement, so let's take a look at that, and then we'll follow that up with some more questions. When the stream was working, this is what we saw. Go ahead, Paul.
I'll be convinced for the University of Syracuse.
All right, so look, we love him, Calvin Russell. It is Syracuse University, by the way, Calvin, being a grad, not the University of Syracuse. Some identify that way, some go the other way. That's why it's SU. But we'll get that straightened out. We got no problem. You catch some touchdown passes, you get us 1,000-yard season, and we'll forgive all of that kind of stuff. Yeah, I mean, it's been ages since Syracuse has even gotten a guy like this. And as you said, Javon, Syracuse is competing for these 4 and 5 stars regularly. Fran Brown is and continues to be the incredible recruiter that we saw in that transfer portal. And that pipeline to Florida, we heard him talk about wanting to return Syracuse to its roots, and its roots being the Pasqualoni De Leon era. And that was one of the trademarks. The only difference I would say back in that era, since I covered it, is that Pasqualoni and De Leon were primarily chasing kind of scraps that fell between the cracks in Florida. This guy's swinging for the fences, and in this case, he's hit himself a home run.
No, absolutely. And so Calvin Russell committed Saturday. Last Monday, a week from today, actually. I was up at, I think that's the Timberbanks golf course for some event that the NFL alumni were having. And I got to speak with, Robert Drummond and Robert Carpenter. And let's just say they were not fond of the coaches that came after Pasqualoni.
Yes.
And they spoke about how different Fran was from Dino Babers, right? Like, they made it simple and plain. Babers came in, had some early success, and their words, not mine, started smelling himself, pushed the legends out, and everything just started going downhill, right? Fran Brown got to Syracuse and was like, no, this is your program. Like, I graduated from Western Carolina. I can't teach these guys how to be a Syracuse Orange. You can, and I need you to. And I need y'all to teach me so that I can understand what it's about and start doing the teaching myself, right? And while talking to them, they were just like, man, Syracuse used to be a football school, like what Boeheim did was great, but before there was a Jim Boeheim, Syracuse was a football school. And even during Jim Boeheim, like, Donovan McNabb, Dwight Freeney, Marvin Harrison Sr., they are orange. And Fran Brown wants to get them back to that. But they were also like, I didn't think he'd be, I'd be looking up and seeing 4s and 5s. Just did not think I'd see it. Both of them. So Fran has taken a lot. He's put a lot of people on notice. And like I said, with Florida, Fran Brown just gets it, He just gets it. And I'll tell you what, fellas, my phone has been blowing up the last 2 days from my fellow members of the Temple Alumni Association who were just absolutely pissed that Fran Brown got passed over 3 times. And after seeing Calvin Russell, they were just like, yeah, man, I can't do this anymore. Something's got to change down here in North Philly. And I'm like, hey, I hear y'all. I texted Fran yesterday, like, man, you have caused an uprising. Congratulations on Calvin. He's just like, hey, man, they didn't want me. God's plan. On to the next thing. So, listen, I was one of those people from 2019 through 2022 that said Fran Brown should have, returned home to the nest.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't listen. Now he's about to turn Syracuse into a power in the ACC because conference media days are this month. And he can go down there and say, hey, Mario Cristobal, you wanted the best player in my state? He would have come to me if my receivers coach didn't leave for Oregon. So I outlasted you, Mike Norvell. I'm taking players from up under your nose. Manny Diaz. Because of 2019, there's no way in hell I'm going to let you have a better career at Duke than I'm going to have at Syracuse. Like, hey, fellas, guess what? I'm here. Syracuse is here. Get ready. Clemson, SMU, like, tie your shoes up because I'm coming. Exciting times in Central New York.
No doubt. Go ahead, Paul.
It is. Yeah, Javon, it's funny in that answer you just gave, you sort of tied the lines of, Jim Boeheim, the good old days of Syracuse, the glory years with Dwight Freeney, Marvin Harrison, and all those wonderful players, which is an interesting tie with Calvin here because apparently not only 5-star football and he enjoys all that, but also I understand he wants to continue that basketball career as well. How big of a piece was that element in the recruiting game? Because I imagine as talented as Calvin is here, not every school is willing to pair those two things together of allowing a player to play in both because of what that entails of distractions, call it whatever you want, of splitting those duties sometimes of doing both. So how big of a piece was that recruitment and that he actually is going to play for the SU Hoops team on top of his football affinity?
So, fellas, you know how you log on to 24/7 or you get on Twitter and the 24/7 writers are up there and you see that they log their crystal ball predictions. My crystal ball prediction up until maybe like 4 p.m. Saturday was Michigan. And it was because Dusty May had been recruiting Calvin Russell as a basketball player since his days at Florida Atlantic. I was like, oh, that's a long relationship then. Like that's going back to Calvin's underclassmen days of high school, combined with the fact that Michigan football is Michigan football. And the whole country's excited about Bryce Underwood. Personally, he's got to show me something. I don't go crazy over true freshman anything in college football, to be honest with you. And they're losing their allure to me in college basketball too, but that's a different conversation. And then you get further along in the Saturday and you start to learn things like that guy knows a lot of the kids on the Syracuse roster. Like that South Florida football community, all the good players really do know each other and really are cool with each other, right? And that showed. And then it was also when I saw that him and Fran Brown shared an agency that I started leaning towards Syracuse. But I knew it was down to Syracuse and Michigan because Red Autry also wants Calvin Russell on his team. That is why Michigan and Syracuse really were viewed as the top two. Like those two teams were the two that were going to let him play both. the guy is 6'5". So, I'm 6'5". I play basketball. Like that's basketball player height. And his mom is a hurricane legend on the hardwood. So, no, that kid, you were not going to get him if you weren't going to let him play basketball. And I am confident that Syracuse is going to be serious in letting him play both. I do believe that football will be his primary sport, the one he focuses on the most. You'll probably see him on the floor for archery in mid-December. But that was a big thing. And you know what? Let's get back to the two-sport college athletes, And I'm not talking about, hey, you play football in the fall and then you run track in the spring to avoid spring practice. That's been going on forever. That doesn't count to me anymore. They do it in high school too. I saw it. I'm talking real life, playing football from August to November, and then December comes around and you're dribbling the basketball. Bring that back. So I'm excited for that. And no school was going to get Calvin Russell unless that happened. And I brought up his mom. This was something I shared with Brent X on Saturday night. I'm like, that kid is a South Florida dude. His mom is a Miami basketball legend. And the Hurricanes didn't even crack his top 5. Listen,
Unusual.
Miami football for 2 reasons. My dad's a big Canes fan. My dad was born in March of 80. So his childhood was Miami football. And number 2, my beloved Baltimore Ravens, who break my heart every year, would not have 2 Super Bowls if not for the Miami Hurricanes. Ray Lewis and Ed Reed are Miami, and we are Baltimore, right? And I've got to tell you guys, I've got more faith in Fran Brown than Mario Cristobal right now. When Messiah Hampton, the number 1 player in New York, was announcing his commitment, his final 2 came down to Syracuse and Oregon. He chose Oregon because of Ross Douglas. Miami was in his top 4. Miami did not get chosen for one real plain reason, and it was that Mario Cristobal did not call Messiah Hampton until the night before he committed. And that just rubbed Messiah and his father the wrong way. They were like, yeah, no, that's not happening. So I see that, and I see you didn't even get into the top 4 for a Calvin Russell. And I'm seeing a lot of kids from that region choose the Gators over the Hurricanes right now. He's on the watch for me of, hey, Miami might not be back, because I'm getting concerns. The same concerns I got about Billy Napier a few years ago when a few of his kids transferred from Florida to Temple, and I got the chance to talk to them. I'm getting that feeling with the Hurricanes. I don't think Syracuse fans are going to be worried about them much longer while Cristobal is there. I think it's going to be the next coach that finally, becomes Miami's Steve Sarkisian down at Texas. But no, Calvin Russell was not going to go anywhere. He couldn't play basketball.
Talking with Javon Edmonds, Syracuse.com, our SU football insider. Big news coming down over the weekend about Syracuse getting 5-star wide receiver from South Florida, Calvin Russell, making his decision at his birthday party. We just showed the video a little earlier. By the way, if you missed it, you can go back and watch this. Everything is on demand here on our digital platform. Don't forget, subscribe at MC Show Digital. And please like the video by hitting a little thumbs up. You can do that. Our interview today is brought to you by our friends at Play It Again Sports. Gentlemen, take a drink of water. We'll take 30 seconds out here and give a little homage to our friends at Play It Again. Be right back after this.
Warm weather sports season is here, and if you want to gear up and save money on some of the top brands of golf, soccer, and baseball equipment, and much more, Play It Again Sports can be your solution. With both new and gently used gear, Play It Again has prices way less than regular retail stores. And for all you golfers out there, get some quick money for those clubs you've got stashed away and are collecting dust. Play It Again is always looking for quality gear. No appointment necessary. Just bring it into the store. Play It Again Sports in the DeWitt Town Center on Erie Boulevard. Don't spend more. Play it again. Play It Again Sports, Syracuse.com.
All right, back again here at MC Show Digital. Again, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like the video if you like it. We're talking with Javon Edmonds from Syracuse.com, our SU insider, about Calvin Russell, the 5-star receiver from South Florida who accepted or is I guess he isn't signed yet. Let's talk about that just for a second here, Javon. So this is a verbal commitment, essentially. These things can go backwards and sideways sometimes. When does the actual signing the paper, and then when does it really feel like this is locked and loaded for Syracuse? Or do you already kind of feel that way, even though it's not pen to paper yet?
Yeah, so National Signing Day is in December. So, nothing's official until it's official, right? However, Calvin Russell did say, like, he said his recruitment's over. It's over. It's done. Stop calling his phone. He's going to Syracuse. Now, granted, money talks, so I don't listen to any kid that says that right now. Nothing against you, Calvin. Friend, this isn't anything, against your program being able to keep any talent. This is just, I've been around this for a little while now, seen some things, heard a whole lot more. Verbal commitment, like you said, verbal commitment. This thing's probably, I'm sure Michigan's going to keep calling his phone, but yeah, signing days in December. I don't think he flips. I really don't. But that's the thing. I felt like my recruitment is over meant more from Calvin Russell than it did from Messiah Hampton.
Okay,
I will say that. Mainly that's because by the time Messiah Hampton had committed to Oregon, his father hadn't met Dan Lanning face to face yet. It was actually the week after that he went out there. So, to me, like, all right, listen, the kid's from Rochester. Syracuse was the second option. He told me straight up, if Ross Douglas was still in Syracuse, he would have been in Orange. And his father hadn't met Dan Lanning yet. And, you guys know, when Dad's around, he's got to give that seal of approval. Like, hey, I'm trusting you to look after my boy for 3-4 years. So I've got to look you in your eyes, a man, and figure out if you're worthy of that, right? Seems like everything went well on that visit. So now I think Hampton's locked in. But at that time, I was like, no, Syracuse keeps calling him until December. There's a chance at a flip. But with Calvin Russell, I think, like, I don't have the same doubts on day one that I did with Hampton. I think Russell is just locked in to go to Syracuse.
Javon, quick aside here. Where do you stand on the social etiquette of what you just talked about? It's not official till December. Do you see anything wrong with the Michigans of the world and any other team on this side of the blue moon saying, hey, man, yeah, I heard what you said in the video, but here's a little bit of this. What's your stance on any of the extracurricular activity that takes place that sometimes people don't see that could get someone to flip somebody?
It's legal. It's a part of the game. Like, it goes down to December. When you're in contract negotiations, right? Or what is the first thing you hear? Get it in writing.
Yes.
If it isn't in writing, it doesn't count. So that's my viewpoint on this. It doesn't count until he signs his name on the dotted line. So, yeah, keep calling the kid. That's what you're supposed to do. If you want him, you got to show him you want him. That's just how it goes. So I've got no issue with that. I mean, hell, if I were a recruit these days, I'd probably commit. Yeah, right around the time teams are about to start going into fall camp. And I wouldn't use it as a final commitment. I'd say it's a final commitment. Don't get me wrong. But, I can tell you right now, me and my dad would be sitting there like, yeah, listen, we're going to announce in July. And that announcement is going to be to get the other schools to up their NIL package and their revenue share package. And then our real commitment comes when we sign in December. That's just the way we think. I know it is. So I've got no problem with any kid that conducts their business that way. I've got no problem with any school that conducts their business that way. Nothing's official until you sign on the dotted line in December. So I'm going to keep blowing up your phone until December.
Talking with Javon Edmonds, Syracuse.com, our SU football insider, the recruitment and now seemingly, or I shouldn't say seemingly, the verbal commitment by Calvin Johnson to come to Syracuse over some big name schools. We're talking Michigan, Florida State, and Oregon among his finalists. Very, very big news for Syracuse football. Again, we believe the first five-star recruit since 2000, 2001, depending on whether you view Cecil Howard as a five-star. Johnny Morant was clearly a five-star, which was back in 2000, the year after Cecil Howard, quarterback from Pennsylvania, was deemed by some recruiting services to be a five-star. We really only started this star system really back in the early 2000s. So this was really at the infancy of it. Now we rank, hundreds and hundreds and if not thousands of players. The recruiting sites very, very busy in recruiting players. I was trying to look back in the annals of history, Javon, to see have there been any bigger recruits, even on the five-star level, for Syracuse, and it's just kind of hard to tell. I mean, you mentioned some guys earlier, like a guy like Marvin Harrison. A lot of people think McNabb was a five-star. He was not. The recruiting services were somewhat available at that time. I remember McNabb was a three-star in some services, at best a four-star when he was recruited by Syracuse. So we haven't seen this a lot. A guy that I think was a bona fide five-star back almost before rating systems really were even much of a thing was Tim Green, who was a big-time recruit, a local kid that Syracuse recruited from Liverpool High School. But really, it has been very, very scant for Syracuse to find these five stars. And we were talking a little bit earlier about the relationship building that Fran Brown, the head coach of the Orange, has been doing both with the transfer portal and now recruiting high school seniors. He's represented by this company called Network, which is a marketing agency. Interestingly enough, we have some ties here because Russell is represented by Network. So how does that stuff come into play in recruiting? Does the marketing agency of the coach or other people surrounding the coach sometimes impact recruiting? Let's talk about that.
So when Fran signed with Network, at end of spring, early summer, I called Network's CEO, Doug Scott. And before I got off the phone with him, I made sure to ask, all right, Doug, you've got to tell me something here because I see y'all with Fran's marketing agency for off the field, but you guys also represent coaches and represent players. So I've got to ask, is there anything in the NCAA bylaws that keep you from representing a college coach and any prospective athletes? He's like, no, we're free games. Well, that changes a lot. And then Saturday comes around. Once I saw that Justin Gingrind of Network was Calvin's actual agent, it's like, yeah, Network's going to help Fran Brown get Calvin Russell. That's just the way it's going to be. I'm set to talk to those guys sometime this week, hopefully.
Ties
another
are
smart
right?
play
Connections
from
are
Fran
connections. This is what this is all about, right?
Yeah, another smart play from Fran Brown of, hey, listen, I'm going to get with this marketing agency that can make me some money on the endorsement side and make my name a little more known in the households around the country. But, hey, they've also got a representation side, and they're starting to get in on the college athletes. So, let's go ahead and keep that relationship very, very strong. So, no, I'm glad you took notice to that in our reporting this weekend, because I do believe that to be a big factor. Again, very smart chess move from Fran Brown.
Javon, last one for me here. We're all excited about Calvin Russell, and it's exciting. He's a five-star and all this, but Fran Brown's got me hungry, for some more. So what's next after Calvin Russell? I mean, this is great, but okay.
We want to be doing this again with you next week. Let's do this.
That's it, Javon.
You guys sound like Chris Paul once he finally made the finals, huh? You guys said he was addicted, and unfortunately, Chris Paul's never been back. But no, what's next is Xavier Payne announces if he's flipping from Florida State to either Syracuse or Colorado today. He's a 3-star. But really on my watch is, the two players that I mentioned earlier. Are Tadarius Hughes and Jayden Broadnax going to flip from Louisville and Florida State? Again, close with Calvin Russell, close with Demetrius Samuel and Cameron Wilson and Darius Johnson, all of them all know each other, either played with or against each other in high school and 7-on-7. Are those 2 4-stars going to flip? If they get one of them to flip off of the Calvin Russell move, then Syracuse has absolutely steered momentum completely in the correct direction. That's when I'll say they're cooking with fish grease. So that's what's next on my radar. Do those 2 guys flip? I think it's that simple for the rest of this month. Recruiting talk is going to die down pretty soon. As far as the main focus, not the main focus, but the leading topic of Syracuse football, because media days are about 2-3 weeks away. I'll be down in Charlotte for those. And then once they get back, it's training camp time. So, we've got 2 or 3 more weeks of recruitment being the, big talk of football right now. But those are the 2 I'm looking out for in those next 2 to 3 weeks.
Javon, actually, one last one here for me. Is there a domino effect when you get 1 5-star? Does that get other, like in whether it's not necessarily a surprise move, but like Syracuse gets a 5-star, does that get other recruits start going, now wait just a second here? I'm not talking about Chris Bosh, Dwayne Wade, and LeBron. Everybody said, hey, not 1, not 2, not 3. Let's all kind of gather up here and all head to.
Those are the 3 to name in this situation, though, because this generation of kids, that's probably the first that's probably when those kids started getting into basketball, right? True. These kids know LeBron James, and because of that, they know teaming up with each other.
Could this lead to more of that? So getting Calvin Russell, could that unlock others?
Absolutely. Okay. Because now what's going to happen is, these kids are going to be like, Syracuse? Hold on, let me do my research. Let me make some phone calls. Matter of fact, let me DM Calvin Russell. Let me DM Demetrius Samuel. And then you're going to find out, Frank gives these kids a chance to play both ways. Whoa, he's going to let Calvin play basketball. Whoa. Freshmen have a chance to play immediately? What's going on? Call this. Hey, tell your coach to call me. Oh, man, I like this Fran Brown. Hey, and Calvin, I might be coming up there with you. That's exactly how it goes. One commits, and the others start getting intrigued at the very least.
Talking with Javon Edmonds, our SU insider for Syracuse football. Very exciting news against, again, the 5-star Calvin Russell, the wide receiver from South Florida, verbally committing to Syracuse, and talking about all kinds of other Syracuse stuff here with Javon. Don't forget, our video, click the little thumbs up, and subscribe at MC Show Digital. My last one's going to be this, and I think this is an important question here for Syracuse football fans. So there's a lot to be excited about, Javon. There's no question about it, and the mere thought of some of the things we're discussing, not only the verbal commitment of a 5-star, but other highly touted recruits considering Syracuse, maybe even thinking of flipping from prior commitments to Syracuse, all because of what Fran Brown has been able to do as a recruiter. It still leads to the question about this coming football season, and the fact that all this stuff is great stuff. It's down the pipeline. It's coming to a theater near you or to a dome near you very shortly. But this upcoming season remains a very ominous one. Coming off a 10-3, Syracuse is looking at a schedule that very few in America are going to look at this year, one of the toughest in the country. They're integrating a brand new quarterback, albeit he's a highly recruited high school guy who transfers from LSU to Syracuse, but has very little college experience. Again, help us understand what the path should be as a Syracuse fan in terms of expectations for this season. And then as Fran Brown gets this thing cranking at the high school level, what should our expectations be about how quickly this can truly become a winning program? What kind of plan does he have? I remember Dino Baber said, look at me at month 24 or 28, whatever it was. That's when my team will click. What do you think Fran Brown's ultimate plan is? Because that was a beautiful start, but I think it was a bit of an anomaly. And the question is, how patient do we need to be for this program to come full circle?
Jim, in my friend circle, I'm normally the one that brings everyone back down to earth, and you just did it for us right here. So thank you.
Boo.
Nice
reality. It's just reality, man.
No, it is. No, I'm glad you said that, because all week, for the past 2 weeks, right? Every time I log on to social media, I see Oregon's got some new 4-star, right? I went in the ESPN comment section after they got, I think they got a 5-star Emmanuel Iheanacho last week, something like that. And, their class of 26 is just loaded, apparently. And I was like, man, I was talking to one of my friends on the Xbox. I said, man, Tyrese, Oregon just better have a national championship in either 2029 or 2030. If this class is so great and Dan Lanning's just that guy, they better have a chip in 29 or 30, right? And that's the thing about recruiting. You can fall in love with Calvin Russell, sure, but the payoff for Calvin Russell isn't until 2029, 2030, right? His junior and senior year. You'll probably get a taste of him as a freshman. You'll see him a lot as a sophomore, and this is if everything goes right. It is very much okay. That's fine, but the payoff that you're going to get immediately is this here football season, and how is that going to go? And my answer has not changed from the past 2 times I've gotten on this show. Like, hey, it's a loaded schedule. They make a bowl game. Be happy, right? You mentioned Ricky Collins. That was an interesting point to touch on because we saw Trevor Pena leave partially because he had some doubts about Ricky Collins. Then Steve Angeli transfers in, and I am very confident in saying it is a quarterback competition once again. We will be monitoring that in August, right? And that did not stop Calvin Russell from committing. So clearly he's got some type of faith in who he's going to be catching the ball from, right? So maybe if you're a Syracuse fan, you're saying, let me rest easy. If those two were good enough for Calvin Russell, then they should be good enough for me. Maybe that's what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. We'll see. Just want to keep a little reality on the whole thing. But this is exciting news, and I don't want Syracuse fans, especially those that are watching this video right now, not to be excited. You should be genuinely excited about what this coach is creating and continues to create. But this upcoming season is a challenging one, and I've gone on the record. I think 6 wins. Even 7, want to go to 7, you want to stretch it to 7 wins. It's like, wow, what a job this coach has done in this particular year with this particular group. Now, move it forward another year or 2 years, the way this Fran Brown train seems to be rolling down the tracks. Yeah. And now the expectations will be 8 wins, 9 wins, 10 wins, and even beyond. Can this program that has never really truly gotten a sniff of the playoff really be a national playoff contender? I mean, is that Fran Brown's end goal? I'll end it with that, Javon. Is that his end goal, to make this team a playoff contender annually?
Yes. Fran Brown cares about one thing, and that's winning. He's got a national championship on his finger because of it. He's got Baylor football having a Big 12 championship because of it. And let's see, Temple was the class of the American Athletic Conference for a good little bit because Fran Brown was there and led all of the group of 5 in NFL alumni because Fran Brown was there. Fran Brown wants to win. So, yes, like he wants Syracuse when we're, at Thanksgiving eating our turkey and our mac and cheese and everything. He wants families to be talking about, hey, man, last game of the regular season, what Syracuse got to do to make sure they're still in the top 12, man. Yeah. Or hey, just make sure you don't get upset and you're in. Like, he wants the Thanksgiving conversation to be about Syracuse football and the college football playoff. Absolutely. So, expect that, because think about it. They were already – so I won't say Syracuse were in the talks of the playoff, but they were part of the storyline of the playoff last season, right? Rivalry week at the Dome. Miami's coming up. Miami pretty much was a win and you're in. Syracuse spoiled it. So, like they were already part of the playoff conversation last season. Now, Fran wants Syracuse to be in the playoff conversation. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Well, look, patience, but this is, again, an exciting day, an exciting week for Syracuse, and perhaps more bombs to drop in the upcoming weeks as this recruiting season kind of winds down. Javon Edmonds, always a pleasure having you, my friend. We'll definitely have you back on the pod here. Thanks for spending a little time with us today.
Oh, absolutely. You guys know, call me anytime. This is always a fun part of my week.
All right. Love it. All right. So, again, today's broadcast brought to you by our friends at Played Against Sports in DeWitt. I want to thank them for their support. And we, of course, will continue to do plenty of Syracuse content, both on the basketball and the football side, lacrosse, even when warranted. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel at MC Show Digital. Boy Green, you got any final thoughts before we say goodbye?
Yeah, just Javon, make sure you're on the sticks this week. College football video game dropping. All right.
We've got about an hour and 49 minutes. I'm ready. Listen, I tried to log on at midnight. Wouldn't let me in. I checked Google. It said you can't play until noon. So I'm ready. Yeah, I'm ready.
There we go,
All right,
baby.
my friend. All right, my
Great.
friend. All right, that'll do it. Everybody, thanks for watching. Peace out. We'll see you.